PG, motherfucker. I'm chillin', and this is my review of the new Mobb Deep album, Infinite. This is the infamous Mobb Deep's 9th studio album and its first full-length album since Prodigy passed away back in 2017. P, one of the greatest voices in hip-hop, may he rest in peace. So Havoc handled most of the curation, the production, with Alchemist stepping in on a few tracks. And together they built this album around unreleased Prodigy vocals, giving us a new Mobb Deep album that brings their chemistry back to life. So of course hip-hop heads, Mobb Deep fans alike are all hoping that Infinite can do justice to Prodigy's memory. And well, in Havoc's capable hands we trust. But how will a Mobb Deep album sound like in 2025? And right from the jump, really across the whole project, this album feels like Mobb Deep. It's cold, it's dark, it's moody, that signature grimy sound that they built their name on, enlarged to Prodigy's and Havoc's vocal presence and Havoc's ability to produce with drums that still snap and loops that are dusty, eerie, with plenty of breathing room in the mix. No shiny overproduction, no filler, all killer. And you have a song like the intro, Against the World, which hits you with that New York style of jazzy, dusty, boom bap sound. Gunfire and Mr. Magic highlight these strings in the background but still sound grimy. And like I said earlier, The Alchemist does have production credits on here, producing 4 tracks on here. Havoc and Uncle Al have a great relationship, so of course working together here, it's not like The Alchemist does his own thing and Havoc does his own thing on the production. They are very similar. In fact, they've learned from each other. And, The Alchemist production, it doesn't try to modernize the sound. It really just works in tandem to make this album sound cohesive. He's going to get the assignment. Keep it raw, keep it a little emotional, keep it true to Mobb Deep. Not to go on a little tangent here, but over time it felt like Uncle Al was the unofficial 3rd member of Mobb Deep. I'll try to keep it brief. You do hear Havoc and Uncle Al in interviews, or even Uncle Al by himself in interviews, saying how Mobb Deep, they always helped him get his foot in the door with working with artists and producing in New York, producing classic bangers with them, obviously. He always saw Havoc as a mentor, and yeah, they're all boys, and always love and praise between all of them. And if you don't know by now, he is my favorite producer. But I digress. Overall, the vibe and soundscape of this album stays consistent, dark, tense, really unapologetically New York Mobb Deep sound. Even the 2 Down For You songs, the part 1 with Georgia Smith and Love the Way, Down For You part 2 with HER, they both sound ominous and fit the soundscape of the album, even though they give these melodic hooks and their songs about, love and loyalty. Now to talk a little more about Prodigy, his recordings sound fairly crisp and polished on here, hooks, verses, everything. And honestly, it doesn't feel like much of a patchwork or something that's pieced together like some other posthumous releases. Again, it always depends on what you have in the vault and, how it's mixed, back in whenever these recordings took place. So really credit to Havoc and the production for making the sound polished despite Prodigy not being there with them. And P's voice still carries that calm, menace, sharp delivery that made him one of the best storytellers in the game. Havoc's performance here is more grounded. You can tell that he's reflecting more, not trying to outshine Prodigy, but try to compliment him. Keep that balance and chemistry the group always had. Lyrically, the fans get what they want. We hear about, street code, survival, loyalty, betrayal, loss, and the same themes that define their best work. The difference now is a little bit in the tone. There's a level of maturity to it. It's not about trying to reinvent themselves. It's about refining what's left in the vault. They even shout out their legendary peers on the song My Era, an ode to the hip-hop golden era of the 90s. And there is also a sense of closure on their legacy. In fact, Prodigy's verse on Pour the Henny I think really captures and sums up P's career, talking a little bit about his process in the booth, survival, his success, and working with and touring with greats, and ultimately feeling at peace with what he's accomplished in his career, in his life. And there are a bunch of big name features on here. We do have 3 Nas verses, Clips, Georgia Smith, HER, Ghostface Killah, Raekwon, and Big Noyd. And for the most part, they fit right in. They don't ruin the momentum of the album. They don't ruin really the chemistry and Mobb Deep and the soundscape. I mean, Clips and Mobb Deep on one track is crazy. And I will be honest, I found their song Look At Me to be kinda underwhelming, simply because of how much of a dream collaboration that seems to be, especially given Clips' 2025 run. So for that not to be a ultimate speaker shaker with 10, 20 memorable punchlines is disappointing in of itself. I can't fucking talk. That's how disappointed I was. No, but it's still a good song. It would have been nice to have a full Pusha T verse and then a full Malice verse. If I were going to award the best features on here, I would say it was Georgia Smith's hook on Down For You and Nas's verse on Pour the Henny. What does a Mobb Deep album sound like in 2025? It feels and sounds like Mobb Deep. It's not a tribute album, it's not a cash grab, it just sounds like real chemistry and raw emotion. The production is Mobb Deep to a T. dark, layered, full of atmosphere. And Prodigy's presence, like I said earlier, is treated with care. His verses hit hard and feel intentional. And, you know, the way it's mixed, it sounds like it wasn't just something, you know, scraped up from the vault, or like a recording on an iPhone or something like that. The album doesn't really surprise you per se, and I'm sure longtime fans will appreciate it. Honestly, I don't feel like there are really many whoa or holy shit verses and moments on this thing, despite the iconic names featured on it. It's a relatively safe album in terms of Mobb Deep and Co. keeping that old school feel and not trying to move the needle or experiment in any way. And there are only a few memorable and great hooks on here. Now, Mr. Magic is one of my favorite songs, but, you know, they call me Mr. Magic. Rabbit in a hat trick. Or the M, the O, the B, the B, the... I mean, this is, you know, that old school, rudimentary, yet attempt at being edgy, and it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm just being really nitpicky. The hip, the hop, the hip it. The old head's gonna tell me to fuck off with that take. And of course, comparison is the thief of joy, and it's hard to live up to the classic that is The Infamous or Hell on Earth. Those records still cast a long shadow even to this day. But who knows, we'll see in time with this one. Bottom line is, Infinite doesn't try to rewrite Mobb Deep's history or legacy. It preserves it. It gives Havoc and Prodigy one more moment to trade verses with each other, one more shot to remind you and remind everyone why their sound is so influential, especially in the space of New York, East Coast, boom bap. The recordings are put together tastefully, it's a little emotional, and it feels authentic. You could tell this wasn't made just to cash in like other posthumous records, or just to, you know, throw all the work out there and, you know, make something out of it. It feels like it was handled with care, and it shows. Of course, it's not perfect, but in a world of posthumous projects and tributes that feel disconnected or just stitched together, Infinite actually feels polished and purposeful. So Havoc at the helm, Uncle Al, and those involved with this really got the idea right. The Infamous is infinite, and if this is truly the last Mobb Deep project, I think this was a pretty good send-off. My favorite songs are Against the World, Easy Bruh, Taj Mahal, Mr. Magic, and Pour the Henny. I would pour the Starbucks, but you know, come on man, it's like $6 in this economy. But what are your favorite songs on this album? What are your thoughts on this album? What are your thoughts on my thoughts? Of course, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. These are my thoughts. Stay blessed.